Hey everybody, thanks for joining me. This is Kay, back at it with a new video. In this video, it's titled, It's Hard to Fire Someone or Evict Them Out of Your Property. I don't know which one is worse, but we finna, dive into it. As a boss on a job, I think probably one of the hardest things to do is terminate an employee. And you might say, well, Kay, why would that be hard? Because, hey, don't you enjoy the power of letting someone go? No, because I've been on both sides of this coin. I fired people and I got fired. So, I got a perspective on both sides. But we're going to talk about me as a supervisor or a manager letting someone go. Even though the person might have deserved it, they probably weren't coming to work or their work wasn't up to par, they had issues at home which prevented them from giving their all on the job, whatever the case might have been. It got to the point where, you set them down in your office several times to, explain to them that they need to get whatever they need to do up to par. So you gave the opportunities. And at the end of the day, you had to call them in the office and let them go. Now, some people, they're going to take it easy. Some people say, I was one of those people, hey, okay, whatever. Because I didn't want to make a scene, But you got some people that want a second chance or a third chance. They almost begging you. Some people even cry, and and I've given chances to people in those situations, and then you still wind up letting them go. It's just putting a Band-Aid on a situation that is inevitable. You got to do it. So then you got the ones that can be angry. Now those are the ones that you got to worry about. The ones that get all upset, get really upset and want to fight and want to do this, want to do that. Those are the ones that you have to worry about. Or the ones that you got to call the police to escort them out because they don't want to leave. So that's a tough position to be in. And then, let's look at the other side of the coin with this. Okay, so once you extract them out of the workplace, right? Once you finally get them out of there, now the tough part is when they go home to their loved ones, maybe it's a wife, a girlfriend, or the family, or a friend, or whoever. Now they out of job. And that rent still go on, that mortgage still go on, the lights, the gas, life goes on. So you still have obligations, whether you're working or not, and the world doesn't care. It doesn't matter to them whether you got a job or you don't have a job. All they want is what's due to them. So you got that type of stress too. You got stress that, now how am I going to deal with life issues with no job? And yeah, some people, I just go get another job. Yeah, but it ain't that easy sometimes. And it depends on what you do for a living. Is it really in demand? If it's really in demand, then yeah, you probably get a job like that. But, for the mere mortals like myself and you'll probably be off for a little while. And, if you didn't steal anything, you probably get some type of, unemployment. But that's only like, I think maybe 6 months, something like that. So it's not a whole hell of a lot of time. And then it's like 50% of whatever you make. The last I remember. So I could be wrong. So you got to deal with that. Then you got to, another hard part is telling the people. I remember when I got fired. And I knew I was going to get fired. And I'm not gonna get into it. I'm not gonna name names or name the company or whatever. But I was having problems, and I had just packed all my stuff up, and then just worked. And then it's like once they decided to do whatever they was gonna do, then I just said, hey, okay, I'll deal with it then. I got a pop up on my screen. Get rid of that. Yeah. Um, so when my friend called me because we was discussing it over the weekend. You generally, when your time is near. So, you're gonna be talking to, your close friends about it. And she asked me, she said, so how did it go? Everything go good? I said, no, I got fired. What? And that's the way it went. So, firing people is not an easy thing to do. People think that it's easy, but it's not. That's probably one of the hardest things that you probably want to do or have to do is fire someone because, it's so much stress involved for the person, it's stress for you that you got to be the one to drop the hammer. But at the end of the day, the company is looking at you. You got to do it. The next one is evicting someone. Now, people, fall behind in rent for whatever reason they fall behind in rent. But at the end of the day, you still got bills to pay. I mean, you still got a mortgage. You still got the utilities. You still got whatever you have to run that property. So, yeah, you can give people a little time to try to catch up. But I've been a landlord, and I can tell you most of the time, if a tenant falls behind 2 monthly payments, they probably won't be able to catch up, because everybody's living paycheck to paycheck. And, unless it's around income tax time, generally people won't be able to catch that up. So you have to evict them. Now, I'm not going to get into all the process of evicting because my video is running kind of long. But when you have to put people out, and they know they gonna be put out, but then they still don't do anything, and I think the reason is where they going. Who gonna take them in? Who gonna take them in with all their furniture and all this other stuff? And if you got a family, that's even harder. If you by yourself, maybe you can couch surf, right? But it's kind of difficult if you got a family. And the shelters forget it. So, they're going to be mad. They're going to be upset when that sheriff comes to take and put all their stuff out on the street. And then, I've seen many times where people ravish through the stuff while it's on the street. So, people going to be upset. And that's a hard thing to do. You want them out, but then, you don't want to do that. But in some instances, you got to do it. And it hurts. So these are the reasons why I don't ever want to be in that position again, to fire anyone or evict them. And that's all I have for you. Again, this is Kay, back at it with a new video. Take care, guys.